As a patient attraction company, it's a rare occurrence when I'm going to tell any of our listeners that I can double or even triple your new patients without spending another dime on marketing. But today, I'm going to make a rare exception. And I want to show you how to put more butts in your chairs, double or even triple your current new patient flow without spending another dime on marketing or advertising or websites or SEO. Stick around. Welcome back to the show. It's great to have you on board, Rachel. We're going to talk a little bit today about phone training and what it means to these doctors, because it's not really just phone training. You know, we see so many doctors that spend all these thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars on marketing, and they never get a return from it. So today I want to talk about why that is and how having a great front desk can fix that, can play that role of actually making your marketing get more results.
When we're looking at marketing and how it works, we look at key performing indicators. And for us at SmartBox, number one is calls, right? So when you're looking at how many calls come in, the next thing that you look at is how that person answers the phone and are they able to appoint that prospective patient.
In all the doctors that I've talked to over all the years, I've never once had a doctor that said to me, Colin, my front desk sucks. They don't appoint any patients. They need training. I've never once had a doctor actually admit that their front desk was bad. Have you ever had that happen to you?
Not really per se them saying that, but I have had them say, Jessica may need some help, or it sounds like Sarah's sounds like, basically she just doesn't like the world today, or, something like in that nature, but not specifically their entire staff.
I feel like what happens a lot of times is a lot of doctors, they do a training course. There's a lot of big ego phone trainers out there that do a lot of rah-rah, and they go through this course and they get this certificate on the wall, and then poof, they're trained, they're done, and they never follow up on it. There's nobody holding that front desk accountable, ongoing, to make sure that they're still producing the results. And what we've designed our program to do is to be an ongoing, certify and keep your staff up to date with as many people, your entire front staff certified for life, online curriculum that you can access anytime, and we back it up with monitoring your phones, listening to them, and making sure that your staff is held accountable. Because if you don't hold people accountable, it doesn't do a whole lot.
Right, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, to me, it's all about you can start a conversation with somebody and guide them through to the result, and make sure that when they hang up, they feel good about it. And that's what SmartBox does. And we start with, how are they answering the phone? Or do they sound like they just woke up? Or do they sound mad because they're hungry? Are you feeding your employees? Are they getting to take a lunch?
You hit an interesting thing there. One of the big hurdles that we see a lot is the front desk taking lunches, because your highest call volume for new patients is going to occur around the lunchtime from 10:30 to 2:30. And when you have front desks that are out for lunch, you have calls not getting answered, new patients aren't going to leave a message. They're not going to call you back. They're not going to leave a voicemail for you to check. They're not going to wait around and hope it works out. They're going to go right down that list to the next provider, the next dentist, and make a phone call, and you lost them. Some of the most effective practices that I've seen in terms of appointing patients and training their staff have a ruthless staff meeting once a week, and they actually pull the recorded calls off the answering machine, and they pick 2 or 3 or 4 recorded calls, and they play them and constructively critique them as a group in the staff meeting on a weekly basis. And it's ruthless, but it's constructive and it's positive, and it's making positive changes, not saying, oh, Sally, you suck, but Sally, hey, you did this, but it would have been better if you'd handled it X, Y, Z.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's crucial, and I think that kind of goes back to the culture of a practice. And I think that it's important that you slow down and you realize that one call could be worth, we set an average patient at around $1,500 here at SmartBox. If somebody doesn't give us that and the information.
That's for a general dentist.
That's a general dentist. Now, I would say upward in the way of 4,500 to 6,000 for specialties. But what happens is that when you're talking to that person on the phone, they're not just a prospect for that one specific service. They could bring in their aunt or their cousin or whoever. My mom has, yeah, absolutely. I think of us, my mom has 10 brothers and sisters. If I brought in all of them, that's a huge return.
That's why part of our phone training, we're big bat line proponents. If you don't know the bat line principle, give us a call and talk to us. We'll give you a little tidbit without selling you the whole program. But the bat line concept is critical for new patient scheduling, because you can't be juggling 4 balls in the air and then you take that new patient phone call and expect to give them your undivided attention and focus on them and lead to a positive result.
That's absolutely the truth. And so it's really, to me, it's important to be able to not only control the call, but control your own emotions and your own environment, what's going on around you. Things may get busy. You need to be able to stop and give undivided attention to that bat line, per se, because that is a prospective patient that could be bringing in, upward hundreds of thousands of dollars for the practice. Now, we don't look at them as dollars, we look at them as people, but it's important. It's really important to realize that if you don't answer that call, and to the best of your ability, somebody else will, and they'll persuade them.
They will. And that's one thing that, you look at corporate dentistry, you look at the large dental practices that have grown, privately owned, right? Both of them have something in common. They have great systems, they have great training in place. It's not all about the marketing resources and their big gorilla in the room tactic. It's that they do have good training and they do have good systems. And both of those come down to the phones. How are you going to handle and appoint? What's the management structure inside your office? And making sure that you are appointing as close to that optimal number. We shoot for about 80%. We want 90% of calls to be answered, and we want to appoint 80% of the new patients that call. That's our bar.
Yeah.
And if you want that to happen, it comes down to systems and management and training.
Yeah, I could not agree more.
And accountability.
One thing that I actually really love about our brand is that it is a system. So you're working with all of the different components, tactics, capabilities per se, that will move your business forward. Mm-hmm. To me, it's real important. I think one of the reasons we're adding this as a capability per se to our suite of products is that it's just as important as the beginning part of a consumer's path. It's just as important as the engagement side of things. This is basically where you take them and you nurture them and you move them on.
Absolutely.
And if this doesn't happen, then you're going to miss out. It's a key factor in the consumer's path.
I think one thing that's been a little backwards in the dental industry so far is there are some other industry experts out there that say you should do the phone training first, and that's going to get you new patients. But phone training doesn't make your phone ring, right?
Correct.
And I think that's something that is a little bit of a misperception in the world. Marketing first, and then you move the golf ball down the garden hose per se, right? So as the consumer's path, if you want to call it that, as they're coming towards you, advertising, marketing, then phone training, and then inter-office systems, and then you look at your back-end office systems, right? That's the consumer's path for how you need to be training your office, because you got to get the patients in the door. If you get so caught up on the back end and then the front end, your new patient supply dries up and all of a sudden you have a cash problem, and you don't want that to happen. So always work consumer path down is what I practice and preach to our dentists.
Yeah, I could not agree more.
One of the most important parts of the entire phone call that happens between the doctor's office and the patient is the close, right? That point that you actually appoint them. And, part of our teaching is based on Robert Cialdini, who many of you watching this are probably familiar with. If you've followed me for any length of time, I'm a huge Cialdini fan. And it's all about psychology, right? What we call the dual alternative close, saying, would you like to come in for an appointment on Tuesday or Wednesday? You're giving that prospect the choice, but you're really not giving them a choice. You're coming in to see me either way is the psychology component of that. And that's critical. You have the greeting and all these different parts,
right,
that we train and hold your staff accountable for, but then the close is one of the most important parts. Tell me a little bit about that, Rachel.
The close is extremely important. So you're engaging and you're building rapport throughout the entire conversation, per se, with the prospective patient. And it's so important that when you get to that point, you know you have them. You have them kind of hooked, and they like you, and they're interacting with you a little bit. And at that point, you say, "Great, I'm looking forward to meeting you. Could you come in today, or could you come in tomorrow? I can get you in at 2:00 tomorrow. Does that work?" Basically, you're answering questions that they might ask and overcoming questions that could be thrown at you, making them feel more secure as they move forward because they don't even have to ask. You've already answered it for them.
What kind of results have you seen working with some of our clients with their phone training specifically?
I've seen great results with a lot of doctors. One of the ones most recently is out of Texas, and they were the girls were just not as confident in their approach. Started working with them on basically how to kind of lift their tone a little bit and to sound a little bit more abrasive when they're talking and to control the conversation. And that helped them tremendously. They went from setting about 40% of the calls that were coming in to setting almost 75% of the calls within about a 2.5-month period. So
wow.
What that means is that relationships do matter. The way you talk to somebody does matter.
How you make them feel.
How you make them feel. If I answer the phone and I say, "SmartBox Dental Practice, this is Rachel," or if I say, "SmartBox Dental Practice, this is Rachel, how can I help you?" There's quite a bit of a difference there in how I just greeted that person. And so it's just really important to be conscientious of the way you sound, and two, of what you say as you move forward in the conversation, and listen for just a second to try to understand, what is it that they really need? Are they needing in now because they're in pain? Are they needing in now because they chipped their front tooth and they're embarrassed? And you shoot right at that.
So back to the results, you said they were at 40% and now they're at 70%?
About 75%.
So an 80% increase
yes.
in new patients without another dime spent on marketing. That's just in appointing the calls that are already occurring at a higher percentage.
Absolutely, yes.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
It is phenomenal, and that makes my day when that happens, because it means we're doing our job. We don't need to continue to ask for more and more investment to get to move the needle up. We get to help you with that.
I know. I was looking at a doctor out of New York that, again, like I said earlier, thinks his call team is so awesome, thinks there's no problems with them. He thinks that they've been trained and they're great. And during business hours, he's answering 40% of his phone calls coming in. During business hours.
Wow.
Unbelievable. So it's not always the percentage you're appointing, but I've seen so many doctors that their staff, whether they're understaffed or it's during lunchtime, whatever it may be, they're just flat out not answering calls.
Yeah. Well, I'd have to give them another one of my sayings, which is, "I love you more than your feelings, doctor, and we need to look at this." Yeah. That's not acceptable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One thing that we offer as part of our phone training that I don't know anybody else in the industry does is we back it up with a guarantee.
Yeah.
And the guarantee that we offer with our phone training is, if you come into our program, if we accept you in to our program, and you're already answering 90% of your phone calls, and you're already appointing them at 80%, once we do our baseline, we'll give you your money back, and I'll personally send you a check for $500. So that's us putting our money where our mouth is. If so many dentists that think they're doing so well, and they don't even realize the opportunity that they're missing.
Yeah.
They don't see it. It's in their blind spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's always room for improvement. I think with any skill, there's always room for improvement. It's that ability to be humble and willing that will make a huge difference for practices across the United States, is to try something different and to hold each other accountable. I like that you've said that a few times, because if peers hold each other accountable, just think how much further the practice is going to go.
Oh, yeah. Yep. We're opening up our next training curriculum with the phone training program here in about 45 days. So if anybody has interest in getting on, feel free to give us a call, shoot us an email. Be glad to give you more information about signing up during our next open enrollment period.
Yeah, I would love to work with some new docs. Awesome. Or existing, whatever.
Or existing, yeah. It's been great to have you on the show, Rachel.
Thanks, Colin.
Thanks for coming and hanging out a little bit. And as always, keep moving forward.